So let's call this meeting to order before we get out of hand talking about trees and cakes and things. So we have Joe is with us now and Christopher. Welcome, guys. I think we've given a few minutes now for a few to join us. So
and Nancy,
if anyone else comes along, we can they can just join.
Yeah, I think Stan said he was coming along later.
Stan usually does on a Friday morning. He's sometimes a few minutes late because he was organising his kids for school usually.
Ah.
Now, I must just say, I just want to put a note of acknowledgement in here as well, and I want us to all send our best wishes to Glenn. Glenn had a heart procedure yesterday, and so it was a bit iffy, but touch and go. But good news is he's going well, and I hope to see him at the weekend. So
you don't know exactly, is it a stent they're putting in or something?
I don't know the full details. Well, I'm not a medic, so I would struggle to explain it, but there's something to do with you're supposed to have 3 things working and he's only got 2. I don't know, the medics
I think it might be a bypass.
Yeah, so he's known about, he's had this problem for a while, and he's had bouts of not feeling too good. So now the doctors are doing something about it, hopefully. So he had this sort of preliminary procedure yesterday. And had word from him, and he said he's still a bit groggy today, so he sends his best wishes, and of course we'll send our best wishes to him for a good recovery.
Yeah, healing. We need Carly.
Yes, Carly is probably here in spirit. I think she did say she may be joining us, so we'll see, but she's probably preparing for her mastermind shortly afterwards. And here is Stan coming in. So I'll just let him in. Oh, Carly's arriving too. They're all coming in from all over the place now. It's an international cast this morning. Excellent. Morning, Carly. We were just talking about healing Glenn because he's had a heart procedure yesterday. So we'll just put it out there for you to send your healing vibes, and I'm sure everything will be fine.
Well, with us together. Yeah.
And with us, yes.
Oh.
So, and we have Stan. Morning, Stan.
Morning.
I'm getting a full screen here.
Wow.
Okay. So I'll just give everyone a number and we'll get started. Actually, I might just make Stan, is it okay with you if I make you a co-host? Stan, are we there?
You could, Tony, but I'm having kind of crazy internet stuff, so
okay. Else. Who else is near me and is going to stay to the end and has good internet? Just admit Fiona as well.
Tony, I'll do it if you want.
Okay, thanks, Vicky. I'll just put you down as the host, just in case.
Yeah, no problem.
Vicky, your hair looks pretty.
Oh, thank you. I'm feeling it looks kind of wonky because it's like humid and it goes curly and whatever. It's in a ponytail, but thank you for the compliment.
It's a nice color too.
Oh, yes, I enhanced it. That's the way I call it, enhance.
Mine's gone a bit like the wild man of Borneo.
Okay, so if we make Karen number 1, Nancy Ann number 2, Vicky number 3. I'm just doing on the order of the screen now. So Julie number 4.
I'm so often
number 5. Joe number 6. Carly 7. Stan 8. And Fiona, good morning.
Morning.
9.
Can you miss me out on this? Because for some reason, something's happened to my screen and I've got something over everything.
Sure can. Okay, and I'll go number 9 and I'll just share screen.
What number am I?
Christopher, you are number 5. So Carly 1, Nancy Ann 2, Vicky 3, Julie 4, Christopher 5, Joe 6, Carly 7, Stan 8, and me 9. And I
Did
will,
you say Carly or Karen 1 and then,
Karen 1,
okay, and then Carly 7? Was that right?
Carly 7.
Thank
Yeah,
you. I thought I heard the same name twice.
I should have just read it all myself. It might be an easier with a big group. So anyway,
Trying to put it in order.
let's get rolling with Karen.
I'm after Joe, right?
Yeah, I'll call people out as a reminder if anyone hesitates, okay?
That's a good idea.
So Karen, would you like to lead us off?
Mastermind principles. The purpose of the mastermind: to learn leadership, build teams, and create multiple sources of income together.
We are here to inspire and challenge each other to reach and exceed goals.
Each member is committed to their own success, as well as the success of every member of the group.
We are committed to meeting in person or virtually for 1 hour every week.
Christopher?
We are present. There is no multitasking or distractions during meetings.
Joe?
We are collaborative. We listen without interrupting, lecturing, or judging.
We celebrate each other's successes without jealousy.
We are honest and participate by giving thoughtful feedback.
We are open and listen to different perspectives without being defensive or offering excuses.
We trust fellow members enough to share fully.
We are focused, but we also think it's important to have fun during meetings.
We are real and authentic. This is a no BS zone.
Julie?
Oh, which one is it? Sorry.
13.
Okay. We allow ourselves to become completely aligned with each other and the high forces, one mind, one soul, and one love.
Done. Christopher?
Noble Goldman International is a conscious, aware, and engaged global community of abundance and freedom creators.
Joe?
Our mission is to create 1 million millionaires who are free from the time, money paradigm. We focus on creating multiple streams of income through masterminding, team building, and the effective utilization of internet-based platforms.
Carly?
The mastermind becomes an opportunity for self-mastery. I'm getting mastery on my muting, where the self-transcendent shift from the me to the we to the us occurs. As congruence and engagement increases, the world's consciousness is then raised one meaningful and inspired relationship at a time.
Well done, everyone. Thank you for that. I think I might take a page out of Russ's book on that one in future and just read the whole thing myself. It's a big...
No, it's a team effort.
No, it's not. That's the best part. We're all doing it.
By the way, Tony, I sent a message to Glenn and he wrote back all good, because I was sending positive healing vibes from all of us to him, and he said all's good.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And we have Barbara just joining us as well. Welcome aboard. And so I am very excited this morning. A couple of new faces. Lovely to see Barbara and Nancy Ann. Haven't seen for a little while. Obviously, I've met you on previous sessions. We have a lot to cover this morning, even though I've cut it down to just talking about the preface, the introduction, and chapter 1. But I am so excited about this book because it's a book I've had since, when did I get it now? 2004 when I first read it. And it's one of those books that it's a timeless classic that you can go back to again and again. He's actually added some books in. He's created a series out of this, and there is even a 5th agreement. So we never know, we might sneak that in at the end. But anyway, for today, I just wanted to focus on the introductory side of things. Because as you'll see, there is actually quite a lot to cover, and then we can go through the 4 agreements themselves next week and perhaps the week after, and then we'll go on to maybe a different book after that. So welcome aboard, everyone. I'm very pleased to see such an international cast. We've got people from America, Canada, New Zealand, the dark side of Australia, as I call it, the East Coast there. And although Carly's working on enlightening that, and Christopher, a few of you, aren't you? And then we've got New Zealand as well. Did I miss anybody out there? Anyone from anywhere else? Barbara, where are you from? I don't know where you've come from. You're muted, sorry.
Said she's in Austria.
Yeah.
In Austria. Hi, nice to meet you. I think
That's
I've seen you before, but I don't know.
Well, welcome aboard. It's lovely to see you too. Austria. Well, I think that's the first time I've had someone from Austria on the call. So you are setting a trend there. Well done. All right. So we'll just keep the chat box there. Maybe Vicky, if you can keep an eye on that for me a little bit as well, just in case I miss anything. A lot of faces looking at me today. This is exciting. So the book by Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements, is what we're mainly here to talk about today, and how it applies to us, how it affects our lives, how we can extract the wisdom from it and get the most out of this book and share our experiences with the rest of us. So this starts off with what I call the preface, which is just explaining who the Toltecs were. The Pyramid of Teotihuacan. Actually, I'll just, if I can. Oh, no, I can't. That's all right. I'll find it in a minute. I have been there. I've got a photograph actually of me in front of the pyramids of the sun and moon are just outside, about an hour out of Mexico City. And I was fortunate enough to be there in 2014. Absolutely extraordinary place. It's like going to the pyramids in Egypt. You can feel that sense of history and that sense of wisdom that's been passed down through the ages. It's an incredible sensation. It gives you goosebumps just being there. And unlike the Egyptian pyramids, you are allowed to climb these ones. The Pyramid of the Moon is extremely steep and quite dangerous, actually. They have a handrail to help guide you up there. The Pyramid of the Sun is not quite as steep, but it's much longer. So it's a really big climb. And of course, you're at high altitude as well. So by the time you get to the top of it, it's you certainly get, well, I certainly was feeling my heart rate going. I wasn't as fit as I should have been, perhaps, but the view from the top is absolutely worth it. It's just, well, literally breathtaking. There you go. So the Toltecs, the Teotihuacan, he talks in the preface there, just to explain who they are, about that he is, the author is a Nagual from the Eagle Knight lineage. And he goes on to explain what the Naguals are in the introduction. But essentially, it is the equivalent of what you probably have as a shaman. So somebody who is a spiritual guide or teacher and helps to pass on that the wisdom from the ancients to the modern day and to interpret it for us all. As we have shamans and teachers, spiritual guides in practically, well, every civilization around the planet. And if you haven't seen it yet, there's a fantastic documentary you can watch, and you can actually get some of it free on YouTube, which is The Time of the Sixth Sun, where a lady has gone around and interviewed all of these shamans from around the world and talks about the fact that we're now approaching a new age, an age of consciousness and awareness, and that around the world collectively more and more people are awakening to more of our spiritual purpose on this planet. So the introduction, he talks about, he calls it the smoky mirror. So the stars being what they call the tonal, and the light between them being the Nagual. So that the harmony and space between is life or intent. Very interesting chapter, or very interesting introduction there, because it really sets a framework to the book in a spiritual sense, that everything is God, or whatever you want to call it, your version of it. I'm not here to preach religion at anybody. I prefer to think of myself more as spiritual than religious. Religion tends to be more dogma as far as I'm concerned, but the real us is pure love, pure light. And that is a theme that actually you will find in, as far as I know, practically all the religions, that everyone is a mirror. So we see a reflection of ourselves in the world around us and in everyone else around us. And it's often been said that when someone pushes your buttons or irritates you, they are probably actually a reflection of yourself in some way. There's something about yourself that you don't like, and they're reminding you of it, and that's why it irritates you so much. So before you judge others, look inwards and go, why is this getting to me so much? So he talks about the fact that there is a wall of fog between the mirrors, or as he calls it, the smoky mirror, and that the dream of humans is the dream of the planet. So we have our own dreams, but there's also the dream of the planet, or the dream of society. So that's probably enough for me just to get us started on the introduction. Has anyone else got any comments or thoughts about that introduction, or wish to expand on anything that's resonated with them in particular and why it has? Vicky, lead us off.
So for me, I interpret it as like a veil between conscious and subconscious, and it's like a divider kind of thing. And I don't know, I found it fascinating to find that veil slowly disappear. That's been my experience for a while, but really the past year, but I've dealt with it, I think, most of my life, where I'm accessing stuff and I'm feeling comfortable and things just come to me. You know, I could be out walking and stuff comes to me. You know, I'm able to manifest stuff I couldn't do before, which I find fascinating, where I looked at a wine glass that was sitting on my night table and all I thought was, oh, that could fall. And literally 2 seconds later, it fell to the floor and it broke and crashed. So it's amazing. Yeah, I know, right? So I was like, and I love this wine glass. It was purple on top of it, my favorite color. But anyway, I like his description of a mirror, because I think it's easier for people to think of a mirror. But for me, I feel like there's a divider kind of thing between the parts of our mind. And that, so I put it to subconscious and conscious. And it's fascinating when it falls and you have access to stuff and it just comes to you all times of the day, when you wake up from sleeping, at night and whatever. So I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, but.
Don't you find it's like a muscle? The more you use it, the more you tap into it.
Yes.
The
yes.
more you can access it, the more powerful you become at it.
In a good way, though. Like for me, it's for good. It would never be for anything bad or, malicious.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Barbara, please.
I have a question for Vicky. So Vicky, when you looked at that and it fell, and it really fell, how did you feel about that? Like, did you think like, oh my God, I'm so powerful or something? Because that reminds me of something my girlfriend did. She was mad at somebody almost hitting her dogs, and she said, I wish they would fall into the ditch, and they were driving. Next thing she knows, they drove into the ditch. And I said, you're a witch, So she was mad because they drove so fast with her car, and she just thought it in her mind, and boom. So you didn't think that you were so powerful or something when that happened? You didn't have any thoughts like that, Vicky?
No, I don't go to that side. I just like, oh, well, I lost my wine glass. What a shame. And I just cleaned it up because I have cats that come in my room and I didn't want them to cut their paws on it. No, I don't think that way.
Do you think it could have been intuition saying, move that glass?
Part of me was like, I probably shouldn't have put it there because it was like a really tall wine glass. It wasn't like this cute little one, and it was purple. It's my favorite color, and I love that, but like whatever. But it was amazing how quickly I thought it, and literally 2 seconds later, it just fell to I didn't touch it. It just fell to the floor.
Oh my Lord.
But it's, it's a wine glass, right? Like to me, it's really, yeah, okay, it broke. It's a material thing. It's, whatever. It's not important in the grand scheme.
Knowing what you know now, would you quickly get up and move it, do you think?
I think in hindsight, I should not have put it there. It probably wasn't the best spot.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. But if you'd had that sort of twinge, say, oh, if you'd moved it straight away, maybe. Anyway, maybe that's.
I don't know.
I believe to do that, don't we? We see the hazard. If there's toddlers around, we spot something.
Well, of course, I'm an adult though, right? And I just decided whatever. It's, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and I just went with the flow. So.
I just would have thought that. Oh, sorry, Julie. I would have just thought that if you thought that and it happened right afterwards, it would have made me personally think and go, gosh, because like I have an experience once that I was at a spiritual retreat, and this was many years ago in Spain, and they were teaching that you could manifest anything out of your mind. Yeah. And there was a lady, her name, they called her Grandma. And she was talking about how she didn't have any money and she needed to pay for something. And the next thing she knows, money, and it wasn't there before. And I've heard of people say this, but the way she said it, and she manifested money in her closet out of the blue. I mean, really, literally out of the blue. So we were getting all these teachings. And that night I went to bed and I was in Spain and I bought these grapes and they were so good. And I mean, I don't think I ever had sweet grapes as that. And I don't usually think about, oh, I want grapes, you know, but I remember throwing my bag away. It was white, yellow, and orange. And I put my hand in my knapsack. There was nothing there. Yeah. I went to bed. It was like 1 a.m. We had to get up normally for these retreats, like really early. And I thought to myself, God, I would just love to have more grapes. And 4 hours later, I put my hand in my knapsack and there were grapes there again, out of the blue. Now, I've manifested things before, but I mean, come on, that was like, whoa. You know, I was like, oh, did a spirit come in or something and put the grapes? I don't know. I mean, I didn't leave my room. So what I'm asking, or what I'm saying, if you think that thought, and oh my God, then the glass falls, then I personally would think about it afterwards and go, ooh, I got to watch my thoughts because I made that happen, you know? So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think because,
go on. Sorry, Jude.
I was going to, no, just because it wasn't something like I would never like wish something bad on somebody. You know, if I'm mad at somebody, whatever, I just kind of let it go because it's just not worth it. So if it's something like that, to me, it's a wine glass, right? It can be replaced. It's a material thing. I don't want to get too attached to material things, but I was amazed how quickly I thought it and it fell and broke. But I just went with the flow.
That's what I'm saying. You thought it and it happened.
Yeah.
So you manifested it for that to happen. So if I'm going to manifest my glass breaking, I would be thinking, wait a minute, I better watch my thoughts that I don't manifest that glass breaking. You know, I'll shift my thoughts into something else. But it's so funny because, like, you know, sometimes, like, I just want to throw it out as well to everybody, Tony, like sometimes you guys haven't had like these thoughts like that as the glass, you know, you have these thoughts and boom, it goes like that. And you're like I'll think something like, oh gosh, I haven't gotten sick in a while, or that hasn't happened. Just a tiny thought. It was just in my head. And then it happened. It's just like, what the hell? Like, what do I think about $1 million or like $1,000 and it's in my hand? But that little thought, it was just a thought. I didn't even speak it out to anybody, and boom, it happens. Like,
and that is why we're all working on self-mastery, Barbara, because we are constantly thinking about things, good and bad. And later on in the book, it talks about white magic and black magic. We will come to that later. But I know for myself, my wife would be thinking about wine and grapes and glasses, and suddenly we would find ourselves at a winery. Isn't that funny?
No, nothing funny about it at all. We just got to believe it's possible, you know, and enjoy it and not manipulate it too much.
Yeah, so that's set us up nicely for moving into chapter 1. That thoughts are very powerful, and we do manifest what we think about. And so we have to guard our thoughts carefully, because when we come from a place of fear, we can attract the things we fear just as much as we can attract the things that we truly want. So chapter 1, he goes on to explain, just a quick summary for those who haven't read it. There's a few key things I wanted to pick out. Maybe we'll come to them point by point and we'll discuss them as we go. But it's entitled Domestication and the Dream of the Planet. So this is very interesting, that you are dreaming the whole time. When you're awake, you're dreaming with the brain awake, and your thoughts your dreams are linear and they make sense, hopefully. When you're dreaming and you're asleep, I don't know about you, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm a bit insane, but my dreams, I sometimes think, and I wake up and I can remember bits of them, I must be going insane. The stuff that was in my dreams is absolute nonsense, and how did these people get in it, and what on earth were they doing there? So he says that there's no frame around our dreams when we're sleeping. So in a sense, we are completely free to be whoever we want, to go wherever we want, to remember anything we want, to piece abstract things together in our dreams. But society's dream is the dream of the planet, and he describes that as being that that is taught to us. We're taught to dream that way by the humans who have lived before us. They teach us to dream the way society dreams. And they put rules on things, they put labels on things. So we don't even get to choose our own name, he says in this chapter. We are given our name by our parents, and then we are taught that a dog is a dog or a cat is a cat. We are given these words that label things, and that in itself is an agreement. So everything that we know has been taught to us by those who have gone before, and then we have accepted those things. As children, we accept what adults tell us kind of unconditionally, and therefore we accept their rules. We accept society's rules, that this is how we're supposed to behave, this is how we're supposed to think, and that we are domesticated like pets, like dogs and cats. We are taught that if we're good, we're rewarded. If we're bad, we're punished. And from this stems the whole concept of judgment, and that we are our own judges and our own worst critics. The inner critic, we've talked a lot about that in our Noble Goldman sessions, and how that comes back to attack us at times, sometimes to keep us safe, sometimes with the best of intentions, but sometimes to shame us or to make us feel guilt, or to not reward us for not having been perfect. And so we have this concept of perfection that we cannot possibly obtain, because none of us are perfect. And yet we reject ourselves, we feel the fear of that rejection because we can't be perfect. There's a bit more, but that's probably enough to go on with, to throw up a few thoughts and ideas from people. Anyone had anything that resonated particularly with them or they want to share on those topics?
Oh, yes, I did. And I'm sorry, my phone rang in the middle of this. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. I was hoping you wouldn't hear it. But, you know,
no judgment. Yeah, Julie, there's no judgment.
No.
Just take
no, it's just that, you know, the agreements we make. And I had an example of this morning with my dear sister-in-law, who's got sort of the beginnings of Alzheimer's. We're not quite sure, but anyway. And she's, you know, she's always got something wrong. You know, there's something wrong with her body or something. But anyway, she recently had a colonoscopy because she'd had a bit of, you know, anyway, a bit of diarrhea. And so they did this, and it was a huge performance. And then, you know, the results came back that she had a beautiful bowel, and it was in you know, perfect condition. And then she'd been taking this mixture, you know what it's like, sort of psyllium. I don't know, it's mescaline or something, I don't know what it's called. And she's been taking it for months. And she said, well, should I be taking it? And then they rang this morning and said, yes, you should carry on taking it. You need to keep taking it. And then she came up and told me, and I said, did you ask why? You know, did you? No, she didn't even ask why. And, you know, and I've been noticing, because, you know, they're getting a lot older, but they just do everything they're told. Unbelievable. There's no freedom to think. I found it quite upsetting that
the freedom is there. She chose not to use it.
Yes, yeah. And you know, I've got a water machine here, and I mean, drinking the water has made a huge difference to my health, and it does to them too. But then they don't do it the next day, and I think, unless I say it again, they don't. Their habits are so locked, you know. And I feel a bit like an alien.
I was listening to I think it was a Jim Rohn recording actually, and he was talking about the opposite of courage is not cowardice, it's conformity.
Yes,
and
passivity.
It's definitely taught in, as he's saying, in this domestication, the dream of the planet is society has to have rules, obviously, so that we know what's legal and what's not legal. Otherwise, we'd have people going around killing and raping and all that sort of thing. So obviously, we have to have some framework of rules of how we agree as a society that we would like things to go for the common good. But then the common good can easily be, as we've seen many times throughout history, can easily be corrupted or used for the personal gain of those who seize power.
But you know, the lack of even an inkling that there could be a choice, that what they're saying might not necessarily be true. You know, it's kind of a laziness of mind, is it? I don't know. I mean, I'm being judgmental here.
Well, as we go on in the chapter, we're being taught to challenge, to think for ourselves, to question, is this the right way? Sorry, Karen, did you want to add something there?
It's funny because I was a single mom for the first 11 years of my son's life. And I always taught him to question everything. I was a young mother. So I didn't trust society. I didn't trust the man. I didn't trust corporate America. Now I'm really glad I didn't. So I questioned everything, and I taught him question everything: who, what, where, why. Very short, very sweet. If you don't think it's right, ask. If it doesn't sit right in your stomach, ask. And I can't tell you how many notes I would get sent home from school. Your son's a troublemaker with these constant questions. I was always up at school fighting, telling him, you should be grateful he's an intelligent human being that has the good sense to question you. And it's really funny because now he's a dad. My granddaughter is 8. She's the same way, and I love it. I absolutely love it. She needs to know, why are we doing this? Why would I want to do this? Why would I want to eat this? And that's her big thing. Why would I want to eat this, Dad? You know, it's funny.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It now makes me realize, as a child, I was the youngest, and I was totally suppressed. I never expressed any objection. I was too scared to alter anything, you know. When I was listening to this chapter this morning, and they said, you know, my brother was a beautiful drawer, and so he was the artistic one in the family. It meant that nobody else was. He was. So I never drew. I never drew. My mum was the singer, and she was a very great singer, so I never sang. You know, interesting. I'm seeing these sort of things now.
Well, next week, Julie, we expect to see some of your drawings on the call, and you can start.
and a quick round of a quick aria.
And Vicky will send you a wine glass.
And possibly a free book.
Oh, yeah.
Christopher, you've had your hand patiently up there for a little
while. We're talking about conformity, right? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, being in a rather conservative Asian family and society, we're always told to hang your head low and don't question and really conform, and that really got me into serious trouble. Probably still now as well, but I don't care as much. One of the things which I wanted to do was to really break that stereotype that Asians are like quiet and submissive. It's a stereotype which sometimes is not very good, where people are actually told not to say anything, and coming from a place whereby if you say certain things, you are, it's really, really frowned upon. I had to not just mind my P's and Q's, but to be very sensitive to the dynamics of what's around. So I decided instead to just play my part in the setting, because if your voice is just not going to be heard anyway, I mean, I'll find a platform and a space in which it really does matter. So I actually saved my energy for those places and those platforms which actually made a difference. And I think my daughter is also very much like that as well. She's been experiencing a lot of toxic masculine toxicity in her workplace, in her school, and been told directly that we're going to make your life a living hell for men. And so during those times, you know, if she would just speak out, they would raise their voice at her and trying to intimidate her, and she wouldn't really she wouldn't show that she's affected, but she would go back and cry. But she is not afraid to start. She started a movement of saying, you know, this is not right. And she found out that other women are also experiencing the same things as well. So in the light of this, she told me not to do anything, but she said that she's working on that. And I'm quite glad that she does get some support from men as well. But at the same time, it's quite frustrating when she gets talked down on when she wants to speak up. And in the midst of a group and crowd of people, the others who are aware, they don't speak up at all. And they only come back to her and say, yeah, we agreed. And I think that's where I need to tell myself, when I don't like it when underdogs are being like surrounded and picked on. So I've always wanted to speak out for the people who sometimes don't have a voice or the courage as well. And she did speak out, and she was basically put in front of a panel of people who spoke down to her too in those things. So I'm very proud of her. At the same time, like, wow, it's quite amazing what's out there. But when you don't conform, that creativity does come out as well. I've noticed you don't necessarily think inside the box, you think outside the box, you think laterally, and all those ways in which you learn as well the dynamics. And the sad thing is a lot of people are blind, deaf, tone deaf to what's going on. And I'm glad that she's learning it younger than later.
Thanks, Christopher, for sharing that. I know Christopher's daughter, Jubilee. She's a very strong character and beautiful, lovely and intelligent young lady. And she's had a few problems through school as well, hasn't she, Christopher, with this kind of thing. Remember that it takes one person to start a movement. And, you know, when you stand up for something that's right and against something that is clearly wrong, that other people will come forward. And that's how we begin with self-mastery, and remembering that people will treat you the way you allow them to treat you. So if you just conform and accept it and don't say anything and don't stand up, then you'll get more of the same. But when you stand up to what is wrong, people like Ruby, what was her name? Ruby Bridges, was it? The lady that wouldn't give up her seat on the bus and in America and began the whole...
Rosa Parks.
Sorry, what was it?
Rosa Parks.
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to think what the name was. It was in my book, actually, and I just couldn't think of her name. But yes, she made that stance. And at the time, it was a very brave thing to do. And yet it sparked that movement. And then you had people like Martin Luther King, or you can think throughout history of people that have stood up to what they believe is wrong, Gandhi and so on. And they've literally changed their part of the world, at least, and possibly had a knock-on effect throughout the world. So
I think a lot of times once one person stands up, it gives others the courage. It almost like gives them permission to stand up and speak their mind. It's really funny because I grew up with 3 brothers, 2 older, 1 younger, and my dad treated us all the same. So I didn't grow up with, you know, she's a girl, she can't, or whatever. And loud one in our house, we're loud, big, loud Italian Irish family. So the level of noise was there. And it wasn't until my mid-30s that I actually learned that everybody doesn't speak up. Because that's how my family and everybody around me operated. If you didn't like something, you said something right away, and you did what you could to get it corrected. And my husband, it's passed now, his parents are super duper passive, super passive. As a matter of fact, Julie, I had to laugh about you with the doctor there because they love taking me to the hospital. I am their hospital advocate because I fire doctors, I question them. It's like, I don't understand why we're doing this here. And they just think, they're like, oh, you can't talk to a doctor that way. I'm like, why? And I remind them, somebody barely passed their medical exam. Somebody prayed to God that night and passed by a 0.5 point. I said, and you don't know that that's not the idiot that's treating you right now, you know? But, and I think a lot of times that people, once I learned that everybody doesn't speak out, that they do it just out of fear, out of not being accepted, out of being wrong, out of rocking boats. And because I always joke, I don't rock them, honey, I flip them. And because that's just how we were. Anyway,
Irish,
though, once you speak up, once they see one person speak up, then another will, and then you get the ripple effect, you know? It's just a shame that I just wish more people use their voices. I mean, just use your voice. You don't go to jail in America for speaking up. Not yet, anyway. I'm sure at some point, maybe. But, you know, it's like, speak up. Like at restaurants, oh, this food is terrible, so return it. Oh, no, I couldn't. Why? Why not? You're going to eat garbage instead of return it and tell them they didn't fix it correctly and order something else? That's insane. But it does
take a lot of, Karen, it takes a lot of courage to do that sometimes. And people are very, very scared. In my previous employment, I worked in an international school, and I was in charge of all the learning diversity, you know, and special needs and things. So, you know, and I was always had to be an advocate for these kids because people would just totally, and the ignorance sometimes was just incredible in the classroom behavior, classroom management of the behavior towards these. And I did, my God, I'm sure they were glad when I left. But I would always, you know, be an advocate. But by God, it was difficult, really, really difficult. And you came up against bullying. And of course, the bullying would come with, you know, lack of promotion job-wise or, you know, yeah. So it does take courage. And in the end, the atmosphere of the management is really bad. It's so toxic that it's dreadful to be there. You know, it's actually dreadful to stay.
Don't you feel like it's as if we need to give these sort of people a copy of this book to read?
Yeah. Well, you see, they were the sort of things I was doing. You know, I was introducing things that that were really kind of like mind mapping in the classroom, and a new study skills. And I had a you know, what do you call it? A singing bowl that I got kids' attention from. And so, you know, I was a bit weird. Yeah, according to them, I thought I was great.
I can't imagine you being weird at all, Julie. It's or rebellious.
The kids like me. The kids and the parents like me.
I think Christopher might have just nudged Barbara. You had something. Was it a reply to something?
Christopher, did you want to say something still? Because your hand is up.
Yeah, but you can go first. It's fine. I'm quite.
Okay, I'll be really quick. I just wanted to say that when you guys were talking about the doctors, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but now I'm going to speak up. But so about 6 months ago, because I'm in Austria, and we got these masks that we had to wear, and I always get bronchitis and stuff like that. So I went to the lung doctor to not wear a mask and to say, you know, because of breathing thing. And then I got there, and they have this fever thing, and they shoot you right here with the fever thing. And I realized it afterwards, and I go, holy shit, they just shot me in my third eye. So when I got into the lung doctor, I said, would you? And I blurted it out, like, because my brother used to say, in America, he used to talk to the doctors. And like you were saying, Karen, you know, he would say, he'd walk in with our dad, and he'd say, oh, hold on, my cat's biting me. He'd walk in with our dad, and he'd go, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not giving my dad the operation. So he said, question the doctor. So I ended up saying to the doctor, why did you shoot me in the third eye? And he says to me, and he throws me out of the office. He threw me out, and he said, you have to wear a mask. And he threw me out, and he said, and that day I couldn't even breathe. And so I had to wear the mask on the trolley home. And he goes, you have to. And he said in front of everything, I'm throwing her out because she asked me why I'm taking her temperature. It's to help everybody else. And I thought, really? You're shooting me in the third eye and you're saying you're taking my temperature? Like hell. And I felt really weird afterwards, after getting shot here, you know. And he threw me out, and he wouldn't give me an exemption. I got it from my homeopath. And if I knew that, I would have went to her. And yeah, he was mad as hell 6-7 months ago. Yeah, I was like, whoa, they're all indoctrinated, you know, they're all bought, you know. I thought to
That's what
myself,
doctor's short for, indoctrinated.
but
Don't
I
get me
heard of it.
started on the medical profession and medicine and food and all that sort of thing. No. Yeah, that's good, Barbara. Thank you for that. Christopher, did you want to add anything to that?
More in terms of what Karen was saying, because of my daughter, she just explained to me that, and I find, hang on, I accidentally switched on something. You know, sometimes when you're hit with confrontation or assault or harassment or any sort of thing which is violent and aggressive, there are two ways in which people do react to, and one of them could well be to freeze. And this is a natural body response. And sometimes it isn't about the courage, but rather in that circumstance, you just lose the words to say. You don't struggle, you allow people to just attack you, or even, and I think I want to acknowledge that it's not always easy. Sometimes we just realize after the fact what we want to say. You know, I've got 1,001 things I should have said in that moment where we were being accosted or something like that. I mean, and it was only on Sunday, and my daughter serves gelato in a very crowded area in Sydney, and on lockdown day, it was the longest of queues. And this old white man came and wanted to pay in cash, and she said, no, we don't accept cash because it's stage 3 or 4. And he was very angry with her and said, you go back to China. And that's overt racism. And she said, what did you say? She said, go back to wherever you come from. And she was very calm. She said, would you please retract that statement, take that back and apologize? He said, no. And I'm very proud of her. She exercised for the first time. Then I refuse to serve you. So he just walked off, and then I'm pretty proud of her, but she did cry when she went back. And I haven't had that much overt racism thrown at me. It's more microaggressions, like, for example, stereotypes. But for her, she's had over the top things. I mean, even after Anzac Day, a group of white guys would come up to her and start harassing her in broad daylight, and people would just, and I was there watching. I was firsthand watching it, and started touching her and all that. And they were all wearing suits after they celebrated Anzac Day too, in Perth. I'm just like amazed at how, and at that point in time, I mean, they were all so huge. They were taller, and like 6 and 7 of them. And so they would beat me to a pulp. I just was frozen at that point, which and just looking back, I said, I should have said something. And she just said, F you to them, because they were harassing her. And I'm so proud of her standing up for herself and all that. And later she told me that's not the first, second, or third, or fourth time she says has encountered. So when there are a large group of males, she would like go to the other side of the road, and like I'm now beginning to see as well. I mean, I'm quite an advocate of her in whatever women's rights she wants to. I would support her as well, because she's being harassed left, right, and center. I mean, one person was in her shop, and they were there for half an hour just taking videos of her. I think that was when she froze and didn't say anything because she didn't know what to do. But after the fact, she felt that that was inappropriate and not right, because they didn't ask permission. There was no consent at all. Her colleague actually started sexually harassing her, and she stood up and complained to the boss as well. So I'm proud of her for that. Another boss prior to that started kicking her behind the counter and started touching her. I mean, this is like, I believe her, okay, but like a lot of people don't, and I think that's why sometimes people in her position, they don't really speak up, because they're not believed as well. I mean, they have the courage, but I mean, when you report it to the police, or you report it to like the discipline master or in school, I mean, a rape was reported in her school in Perth, and it went up to the head of discipline, and he said, don't ruin this boy's career and future. So yeah,
that's like something out of a Hollywood movie, Christopher. This sort of thing goes on, and it's terrible. I can't help but think that there must be some reason why Jubilee in particular has been affected by so many of these things, and I think it must be because she's strong enough to deal with it, and that maybe in some way the universe is making her the right person to be a spokesperson for it, and to stand up and to help create a ripple effect of change, where people will realize that this kind of behavior is not acceptable.
But it shouldn't be the way. I mean, she shouldn't be learning out of trauma. I mean, there are ways in which you can learn about life through positive things. Yeah. But why is it, I mean, and she's the third year uni student in film. There's this one trope which we want to try to stop in film, and that is whenever they feature a strong woman or female character, why is it that her journey always has to be jump-started by something traumatic like rape, or a parent's death, or something like that, or sexual harassment? That should not be the case. I mean, this trope is going on and on and on, perpetuated in the entertainment industry. I mean, it doesn't have to be such whereby you have to have something sexually horrific to happen to a woman in order for them to grow in their character.
Well,
I think,
yeah,
Tony, I think we have to, or Chris, I mean, I think we have to be very careful with the should, you know, of course, according to the way, right and wrong, but should, and often people in some strange way are attracting it to themselves in order to deal with it, you know, in order to become a bit stronger. It's happening to them for that reason. So, you know, I mean, it's, if you focus too much on everything in society that's up the ball, you end up all day being regretful, you know? So I know what you mean.
So just conscious of time, guys, because we're coming towards the end. I just want to go back to a couple of the last points from the book, from this particular section, the introduction, which is interesting, sort of fits with what we've been talking about with it. Even if the book, that society has a book of law, right? So whatever society agrees upon is agreed to be the law. But he says that even if the book of law is wrong, it makes you feel safe. Well, in this case of what we've been talking about, obviously it doesn't make you feel safe, but we must have the courage to have our own beliefs. And we didn't choose the beliefs necessarily that society has created, but we have in some way implicitly agreed to them. But that's why we have blame, guilt, and shame. And he goes on to talk about society being ruled by fear, and that in some sense society could be deemed to be the hell that is spoken of in religious documents and so on, that we are all searching for truth, justice, and beauty, but that those things are actually already within us. So we need to look within ourselves, and it's the fog, or they call it the mitoti, which blinds us and makes us need to be right, or feel that we need to be right, and to make others wrong. And it goes on to say that the greatest fear that we have is to take the risk to be alive, to really experience life to the full, and that we in some way cannot forgive ourselves for not being perfect. So going back to your story there, Christopher, you know, you probably did the right thing not to just stand up to the 6 blokes, because Jubilee was able to deal with it by telling them where to go, and they're probably less likely to do anything 6 blokes onto 1 woman, you would hope certainly, then there's a better chance you being a guy, they probably would have bashed you. But so we mustn't beat ourselves up for the things we didn't do or the things we weren't brave enough to do. We must simply learn from them and go, okay, I did the best that I could, and we'll come to that in another chapter. But if you're doing your best at all times, according to your own values, your own instinct, your own inner guide, then that's all anyone can ask of anybody, really, is to just do your best.
And Tony, sometimes it's none of our business as well, you know. What's the sometimes it isn't our business to do that.
Well,
you know,
people need to I'm not saying that, Christopher, don't take this the wrong way, but sometimes we need to experience something bad in order to learn the lesson from it. We need to, it's a tough love sort of thing, but sometimes we need to be made to stand up for ourselves, and we need to be made to find it within ourselves to challenge whatever it is we believe is wrong, and to find our own voice. And this is one of the great things about this platform, is it gives everybody a voice and an opportunity to learn and grow. Barbara, you have your hand up.
It's the end of the hour, but I just want to say something to Christopher. You know what comes to mind, Christopher? Maybe you could share it with your daughter. It's just a thought that your daughter sees herself protected and safe and like as big as the tallest mountain in the world and as strong as a billion bulldozers or whatever. And that she goes out and she says, I'm so strong, I'm so powerful, and I've got all these like millions of people around me, or angels protecting me, or God, or whatever she believes in, or universe. And she's so big, so strong, and so tall that when she walks around, nobody touches her anymore, because it's like they see a million spirits or whatever, or she says, you know, angels attack them or protect me, and that they feel that, and they feel that protection around her, or puts protection around her. But just a thought, you know, that you can maybe share with her.
That's great. Carly.
Yeah, I'll just be short and sweet. So like, it takes a lot of trust in the moment of any crisis, any fear, any situation, to go straight into your heart and ask a higher power to protect you. Like, it's an instant asking. It takes a lot of trust and faith even in the asking, because we don't realize how much we are protected. When Vicky got that intuition, that was the energy of the universe speaking to her, the glass is going to fall. She knew it, but she didn't decide in the moment, I'll go catch the glass. Instead, she got to witness, to have the lesson from that she's that powerful.
Yes.
So just remember that. So everything's a lesson. It doesn't matter what it is. Yes, it's not right. But the more you come back into your heart and own unconditional love for yourself and beam it out and beam love to everyone else, the more it'll change. And I've seen it with my own daughter. I've seen it with my niece with bullying. As soon as I told her to do that, she had no bullying ever since. And she had it all the way up to age 14. She lives 10 hours away from me. When I saw her at Christmas and I told her what to do, she's never had bullying ever since.
That's a fantastic contribution. Thank you, Carly. I hope that was useful for you there, Christopher. That's great advice. I'm just conscious of time, so if anyone needs to go, please feel free to excuse yourselves. No judgment here. Just to allow people to complete. If there's anyone else wants to say anything, anyone perhaps that hasn't spoken this morning, we'll come to you in a second. Vicky, Nancian, you haven't said anything, or Fiona, did you want to? You don't have to, but if you want to. Anything that has occurred to you from this morning that is of value that you wanted to share at all?
Thanks everyone. Oh, sorry. Thanks everyone. I actually have to go because I've got an appointment, but thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Fiona. Have a great day. Nancian, did you have anything that you wanted to add at all?
I think it was just really great listening and just observing how all the various themes have been intertwined in my life recently. So it feels like a gift in that way. And very excited. I didn't know there was a book involved. And speaking of little psychic things, you might appreciate this. It was a couple of weeks ago, I was driving and just really appreciating my connections there in Australia. You know, I've always kind of mused at that because I know that it's not random. And someday I'd like to come and visit. And
you're welcome
and so
anytime.
oh, thank you. And I am pretty close with I don't know if any of you know Carolyn Forster, but she's there in the Perth area. And so she and I have some collaborations going on. So, you know, at some point I'll come and visit. But I think about all of you that I've met and how it'd be really fun to have some kind of get together, right? And just to meet each other in person. And I'm imagining this like big dance party, right? Because there was some really great music on. And I also love the fact that I sort of like, there's a lot of you who are of my vintage. And so it's just like imagining this, and I come to a stop sign and I look at the street sign and it was Inman Way.
Wow.
And I had never noticed, didn't know that street was around. And so
I had no idea they'd named a street after me.
Yeah, right here in Sebastopol, California. So I just thought I'd share that. But anyway, and the other thing was that The Four Agreements was a book that just changed everything for me around about the year 2000 or so. And so it's just been wonderful to listen in and just appreciate all of that.
Thank you so much for that. And that's great to know. Now I know there's a street named after. I'll have to come and visit that street one day.
Right.
Carly, you had your hand up again, or was that from before?
No, that was me celebrating. What a great signpost to get Nancy here today. Like, look out for the signs.
Excellent. Well done. Okay, so that what you've just said there, Nancy, and like leads on beautifully to the conclusion that he talks about, that the more we can love ourselves and less reject ourselves, the more that we can accept that we're not perfect, but that we can acknowledge that we make thousands of agreements with ourselves every day in every way. But if we take on board the 4 agreements that are mentioned in these chapters in this book, they will transform your life. And Nancian's just attested to that they do transform your life. I certainly, when I connect the dots backwards to reading this book, that back in 2004, I think it was, it does have a significant impact. It makes you stop and think and question more things and question, why am I choosing to interpret it this way, or why am I choosing to respond this way? Is it actually about me rather than about the other person? And so to create a new dream, your own personal dream of how you want your life to go, and that you can achieve self-mastery, you can certainly work towards it. Will never be perfect. We're all a journey or a work in progress. But knowing these things and in being empowered with this knowledge, we can move forwards in a more effective way. Does anyone else have any last thoughts that they'd like to add? It's been a very useful discussion this morning.
No, it's just an amazing book, and I'm so grateful. You know, I looked at it and thought, oh no, not another book.
Well, what can I say about that one? I'll have to go and on that one, Julie. That's a whole other topic, that point you just raised there.
Can I just say something quickly, Tony, really more for Christopher for thinking of his daughter, if it's okay? It comes from the book. I'm actually going to be reading from the book, so it relates to the book. But for me, when it says we are finally ready to change our agreements, there are 4 very powerful agreements that will help us to break those agreements that come from fear and deplete our energy. Each time you break an agreement, all the power you used to create it returns to you. If you adopt these 4 agreements, they will create enough personal power for you to change the entire system of your old agreements. That stands out for me. Christopher, I would very strongly suggest you ask your daughter to read this book. And the 2 of you should mastermind over it together. Just a suggestion, but
certainly,
I think...
Certainly, yes, it is an option. Not a should, but an option, definitely.
No, I'm just putting it out as an option, but I think kudos to your daughter for choosing the right time to stand up to people who are doing something to her that's not appropriate. And as a female, I think there are times that we let things go because we just know it's not a safe or the right time to do it. And there are other times we're going to become super assertive and we're going to be like, get away from me. Like, what are you doing? And we're going to be assertive. So I'm proud that your daughter is doing things, but I think she's choosing the timing. So it's very smart from my perspective on what she's doing. That's all I want to share.
And Vicky,
Sounds like it
I
would be.
think also sometimes silence is also extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think there was that saying that silence is golden, speech is silver, as well, and the context is everything. I'm really immensely proud of her for choosing when to stand up, and also there is a lot of power in not saying anything as well. Like sometimes dead awkward silence speaks so loudly.
Also acknowledging that other people are not necessarily as awakened, and that they are in their own, dealing with their own level of pain, or there's something going on that makes them feel the need to project outwardly and lash out at people unfairly or unreasonably. So there's something going on with them, and they're perhaps sometimes just choosing not to react, just to be kind and let you acknowledge that they're not at that level. They're not at that level of awareness to.
Yeah, it's like comparing our chapter 10 with the chapter 1.
I liked what Carly just said. Empowered silence, internally empowered silence. So that's, often they don't need speaking because it's already there, it's out there with the feeling.
So does everyone feel complete on what we've covered with the introduction today? We're ready to tackle the 4 agreements going forwards. Yes.
I hope there's some more on YouTube.
Yes. Thank you everyone so much for all your contributions today. It's been lovely having you all here in a cyberspace concept anyway, and I look forward to catching up with you all soon. If you want to learn more about female empowerment, Carly's got another mastermind coming up very shortly. So love to catch up with you all again soon, and for those who want to come and visit Australia when you're allowed to, you're more than welcome. Love to have you here. All right, catch you next week.
Thank you, Tony. Bye.
Thanks so much.